Hi, I'm Stefan Stuckert. I'm the director of Against the Tides, a feature documentary.
Hi, my name's Damian Paul Daniel and I'm the DOP for the film Against the Tides.
I always wanted to make a film about swimming with a friend of mine, a long friend of mine, and we were looking for various subjects or people, protagonists, contributors to talk to or to find the right person. And then this friend of mine who lives in a regional England, Somerset, West England, he, as it happens, the protagonist of the film, Beth French, she lived in a neighboring village. So he introduced me to her, and I thought her story. She's a marathon swimmer. She's an excellent athlete, a phenomenal athlete actually, to doing these long channel swims, and so that was interesting for me to capture the adventure and the epic level of that story. But also, she used to be in a wheelchair as a teenager, and so she had a really tough time with an illness, ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. And so for her, swimming in the water was really important to cope with her illness and overcome her illness. And so she's a single mother with an autistic son. So for me, these sort of two elements were really interesting, and I thought she is the right protagonist. She was very confident in front of the camera, very articulate. So I thought she would make a great contributor, both from a narrative point of view, but also in terms of her backstory.
She always talked about how water and sea gave her body back, and she feels most at home in the water. So I said to Stefan, that really resonated with me. I thought, actually, so I said to Stefan, when we started the filming, narrative, actuality-led documentary, where it requires a certain type of camera work. But I said to Stefan, we've also got to remember, as this process goes along, if we can get some art into it, that would, to balance it, that would be fantastic. And I said to Stefan, there's a shot in my mind, because she talks about how much water means to her. I said this to him, I said, look, if we could somehow, I'd love to do this shot where I've got very high speed camera that shoots ultra slow motion, where I just want her in the water, in the sea, nothing else. Camera's right on her, where you see every single drop, because it's all about what water means to her. I said, if we can somehow, this was like a pipe dream. I said, if we could somehow do that, that'd be great. He said, yeah. We carried on filming. And it got to a stage after the trips, we still spent a good 6 months doing follow-up interviews and stuff like that. And then we thought, God, we managed to get a little bit more budget to shoot the art, where we did some beautifully composed underwater cinematography with a fantastic underwater cinematographer. And we were able, by hook or by crook, I got this Phantom camera, which shoots at 1500 frames a second, which is 40 times slower than normal speed. So I thought, the dream's there. And we went out, we had half a day in the ocean, where Beth would be doing an underwater sequence, and we were just on a little rib, in the middle of, this was in Spain, middle of the ocean. When she came up, I said, right, okay, Beth, we'll look around the other side. I just want you, swimming in the water while I'm hanging off the edge of this boat with on a long lens, 1500 frames a second, a camera that's not meant to be in an environment like that. Yeah,
what's really interesting is that is a camera that shouldn't leave the lab. Yeah. That's a camera that is so sensitive.
Thankfully, the friend of mine who I got it from, he knew I was going to be working in water. He said, please don't get it wet. Please don't get it wet. I went, yeah, I promise I won't. I promise. And we did all these sequences, and it was one of these, you can't immediately play it back, because of just the nature of the camera. You save the image, and we had sun blaring. I'm hanging off a dinghy. I'm thinking, yeah, I think I've got it. And it was only after we got back to the hotel that night we were looking back at it, and I said, Stefan, look at this, we've got it. And of course, in editing, when you go through the edit, I mean, we shot something like 800 hours worth of footage. You could tell the full story of Beth without even seeing Beth, But I said to him, if you don't use that shot, I will personally drown you. I will, I wasn't expecting it was going to be used for the opening shot, but I'm very glad, because I think it does actually set. It's a collaborative process. We talk about it. I think hopefully it gets your mind, it puts your mind into it straight away.
Yeah, let me start. Yeah, so we talked a lot about the challenges, and of course, one of the challenges is that you're trying to film a swimmer who is face down in the water. So it's not like a marathon runner, for example, where you can maybe follow them and you can have see their face. You can see the drama unfolding on their face. The strain, the struggle, the effort of doing the job. So with her being in the water, that was a real challenge. Also to capture the majestic environment, the wildlife in a way, the wilderness of the ocean. So those were all aspects that we wanted to capture, both visually but also from the sound side, of course. So we always had the cinematic. We always wanted it to be in the cinema. So we talked a lot about how do we get all these different elements together, and then
plus with the budget, like any filmmaker doing a documentary like this, our budget was very small. So we've got ideas of grand, we call it the champagne, but we've got a budget that only has lemonade in it. Thankfully, as technology moves on, as you well know, we're in a stage now, smaller camera, because we always knew we wanted to shoot it on 2 cameras. Because that's the only way. I mean, Stefan said this was the only way to, capture fully, actuality dialogue. Doing it on 1 camera is virtually impossible. Our crew was 3: Stefan, myself, and our sound recordist, who was also our drone op as well. But cameras like, we shot it on DSLR cameras, mainly on the Sony A7S in HD, because we didn't have the budget really for 4K and all of that, But that small cameras, because you're on a boat, but actually deliver beautiful images.
We did a lot of tests up front to make
sure
we
did some tests
that it would look, although there were small compact cameras, that it would look great on a big screen. So we made sure that.
But also taking advantage of gimbal rigs, where very small, which keep your camera rock solid as well. So all of those elements, and with drones, but with the film also you see so much drone footage, and we spoke about this in length actually, about we want to utilise drones, but it would be very easy to pepper the film with drone footage as well. One, that was good because our sound recordist was our drone op, so there wasn't too many times to shoot the drone, but we wanted to make sure the drone sequences were sparing and not as much as we can not moving. It was almost like we wanted to place a massive tripod in the sky and just let everything play within that image. And I think we've kind of achieved that. But it's utilising the technology at hand to deliver the story as well, which
Yeah, I think it's basically Beth's life story. She came out of her story is very much determined. Her life is very much determined by her illness that she suffered from as a teenager, and she calls herself symptom-free. It's not an illness, ME. I don't know if we know much about ME or chronic fatigue, but it's a very an illness or disease that is very little known about. There's not really any cure, so there's a lot of people that spend decades, their whole life in bed, not being able to move. So for Beth, it was struggle is part of her life, has been ever since her life really was taken away from her as a teenager, as she said. So struggle is very important for her, and she struggled through it, and she found struggle is also finding solutions, and that's what she tried with her life. So she traveled to different, because conventional medicine doesn't give you the answers, she traveled across the world to find ways of dealing with her illness. She used to be a Buddhist nun and learn the skill of meditation, deep meditation, which helps her a lot in her swimming. So struggle is important for her, but also she wanted to show her son, who is autistic, how your condition, your struggle should not determine what you do. So you should be able to live your dreams and live a happy life, even though you may be struggling with other stuff. So struggle, yeah, I mean, as you say, it is really a core theme of the film. Yeah.
Also, just what the film, without giving too much away, is redefining what success is, you know, which I think the film does, you know, is what you think, what is success and what is failure. And I think it addresses that point as well, you know, which I think is really, really interesting, you know.
So it's a very relevant thing for today's life. I think it's how do you handle your life. I mean, with Beth and with her son, they're very clear boundaries, but a lot of people live their lives, you know, you try to balance your work-life balance, you try to live a healthy life but also be successful in your career, and you have your own, you know, everybody has their own boundaries in their life. So it's a really important film, I think, in terms of how do you address that, you know, your wellness, your work-life balance, your aims in life. So I think from that point of view, I think that is a very important theme of overcoming your boundaries. To me, Damian was talking about it, the two cameras was really important. I used to film a lot of magic in Britain, really, you know, quite well-known magic shows, and you're always with two cameras, because these moments they only happen once. You know, people's reactions, and in magic, the magic trick or the people's reaction, it only happens once. If you don't get it, you lost. Yeah. So, and that's the same with Beth's story in a way. It always felt to me like these are unique moments. You can't recreate them. So you have to really try as much as possible to capture them, and that's why two cameras, so you can cover it in the post.
Especially, you know, when she's in the water. I mean, she's in her zone, and she made it very clear from even before we started the challenge. I mean, she's not used to having film crews around, you know, and Stefan, God bless him, as much as, you know, you want to get it's like we would say, Stefan, you can't, you know, it's not like we can say, oh, we just missed that. Can you just go back and do that again? You know, or, you know, yeah, let's stick a camera underneath just to get this really good shot and jeopardize her swim. That ain't gonna happen. We're voyeuristic. We can't, you know, we can't say sorry. I missed that a little bit. Just get this, like, what? You know.
Yeah, and also she wasn't the kind of person who would do that. She
would
not. Yeah. She would not.
Yeah, she made that abundantly. Made that abundantly clear. You know, and so you know, you work with it.
Yeah. So twist and changes in the story. Yeah. I mean, they're challenging and they're exciting. That's why we do what we're doing.
And also two cameras to cover you know, some technical mistakes, like, you know, for the first few couple of trips, Stefan didn't have his glasses on. So anything you see that's a little bit out of focus in the film, that's from his camera.
Well, I would like to talk, what I always, which isn't really talked about a lot, is sort of independent filmmaking, you know, especially in Britain. Maybe, I don't know what the situation is like in the US, but in the UK it's really tough. Financially it's really tough. You know, you are really struggling because there is very little support. So you're just trying to piece the financing together, and so any support there is really, any supporting of the independent filmmaking is critical. And so anybody who's listening also, I think, it's support independent filmmaking is really important, both in spirit but also social media. You know, if you see a good film, independent film, support it by social media, speak about it and stuff, because that really helps the film to get a voice.
Mine's a little bit more light-hearted, is that if you're ever going to shoot a documentary on a boat, don't eat beforehand.